Hey, did you know that with Mantle of Battle Harmony, you can pretty much pop the same amount of supers than you would with Phoenix Protocol, except Mantle also provides you with a 25% weapon damage boost. Did you also know that Well of Radiance allows you to shoot through those annoying taken beams, which not even anti-barrier or radiant can penetrate? Today I am going to show you an incredibly easy and efficient build that's going to make your scores look like this in Grandmasters and endgame content. I have gone over 80 GB of footage while testing fragments, mods and weapons in order to provide you with the absolute best version of this build. Starting off, you need to familiarize yourself with the two most important buffs that the Solar subclass offers: Radiant and Restoration. In our case, Restoration ×2. These two buffs are going to play an incredibly important role in boosting our damage and allowing us to survive pretty much anything the game throws at you. Radiant is a 25% weapon damage boost, and it also gives your weapons anti-barrier properties, which means that you can counter barrier champions and penetrate stuff like Phalanx and Hydra's shields. However, do keep in mind that the artifact mods always take priority, which means that, for example, if you have unstoppable hand cannons, you will not be able to deal with barriers with the Radiant buff or when standing in a Well of Radiance. So do keep that in mind. We can become Radiant by either using our melee ability with the Fragment Ember of Torches, or by rapid solar weapon precision hits and final blows thanks to Flint Striker. On the other hand, Restoration ×2 we can either obtain by using our healing grenades with the aspect Touch of Flame, or by consuming any grenade with hit rises and then Phoenix diving to the ground for those that don't like using healing grenades. Now, thankfully these two buffs can be extended quite easily to last you an infinite amount of time as long as you get kills. That is thanks to our fragment Ember of Empyrean, which increases both buffs by 4 seconds each time you get a kill with a solar weapon or ability, up to a maximum of 12 seconds. You need to make sure that you take advantage of this, and the easiest way to do it is by throwing down your grenade as you're getting a kill with either a weapon or your melee ability. Our exotic of choice is going to be Mantle of Battle Harmony, which helps you in getting your super much faster as long as you get kills with a weapon that matches your subclass type, in our case Solar. Once your super is fully charged up, those same kills instead will give your Solar weapons a 25% damage boost for 10 seconds. You can see this buff appear as Solar weapon boost ×4. So as you can see, we already have a 25% weapon damage boost from Radiant. Now we add another 25 from Mantle, and to top this off, this season has a Solar Surge, which is another extra 25% damage in activities with the Surge active. So you're basically doubling your weapon's damage by simply getting kills. I mean, it doesn't get any easier than this. However, damage is not all that this build has to offer, because it also has a ton of utility. You're going to be getting your grenade, melee and rift back extremely quick thanks to the synergy between our aspects and mods. We are going to be using Ember of Singeing and Ember of Searing. Both these fragments are going to give you melee and rift energy whenever you scorch and defeat targets. Since our solar weapons scorch, this means that these fragments will always be active, giving you a ton of ability energy. Not to mention that with Searing we will also be creating fire sprites, which in return give us grenade energy. But this gets even better when you combine them with mods such as Focusing Strike, Impact Induction and Grenade Kickstart on our gloves, Innervation and Absolution on our legs, and Bomber with Outreach on our class item. Now, before I move on to the actual weapons, I am going to quickly go over the entire build so you can see everything that we'll be using. Stat-wise, you want to prioritize Resilience, followed by Discipline, and then as much recovery as you can get. In the artifact, the 3 must-have mods are Kindling Trigger, Flint Striker, and Rays of Precision. Argent Ordnance is also really nice because it adds even more damage to your rockets. Ability-wise, I am using Phoenix Dive as well as Healing Grenades because I like to play very aggressively with this build. If you're more of a passive player, then you can switch this out for healing rifts instead. Aspect wise, we are using heat rises with touch of flame. For our fragments, we are going to be using Ember of Empyrean with Ember of Torches, followed by singeing and searing. However, if you are using Polaris Lance, then I highly recommend that you equip Ember of Ashes. Mod wise, we are using Solar Siphon so we can make Orbs of Power, Heavy Ammo Scout with Heavy Ammo Finder. On our gauntlets, we are using Grenade Kickstart with Impact Induction and Focusing Strike. On your chestplate, it's just the typical triple resistance setup that's gonna keep you alive. On our leg armor, we are using Innervation with Absolution, and then stack on stacks, that way we have an easier time getting stacks of armor charge. Finally, on our bond, we are using Reaper, combined with Bomber and Outreach. Weapon wise, I am going to start off with Ticuus Divination, since this is one of my favorite weapons because it has a catalyst that literally doubles your damage when you shoot with the bow. When fully stacked up, it can deal some ridiculous numbers when paired up with this build. However, it does require some accuracy with headshots, especially with the explosion. Next up, we have another outstanding bow, Hierarchy of Needs, which deals very good damage once you activate the guiding ring. Not to mention that the bow aims for you, which is always nice to have. When it comes to scout rifles, Polaris Lance is by far one of the best weapons in the game right now, once you pair it up with the right fragments. Ember of Ashes is an absolute must-have with this weapon because it allows you to cause ignitions every 4 headshots instead of 8, making the weapon twice as good and absolutely deadly. If you want to go for a full stay back and ignite enemies setup, then you can also include Ember of Char and Eruption. This weapon is also extremely satisfying to use because as long as you get headshots, you will never have to reload the weapon, making it ideal for high health bar bosses when you run out of heavy ammo. Skyburners Oath is the boring version of Polaris Lance. It's decent if you like standing further back and chipping your enemy's health bars. The only issue is that the explosions that come with the slugs don't actually proc ignitions from the artifact mod, so you'll be making less explosions than usual. It's still a great weapon, but Polaris is simply so much better at the moment. Moving on, we have a hand cannon that has been gaining popularity because it kept getting buffed. Sunshot is a very good and consistent weapon that you can take into any content. However, do be careful in Masters and Grandmasters because sometimes I feel like it lacks a little bit of range. Vex Mythoclast is also on the list because of its amazing catalyst that provides you with Rampage, which goes perfectly with all the damage stacking that we already have in this build. Not to mention its linear fusion rifle mode melts tankier enemies. Finally, I'm going to lump in the last 3 weapons because they are all very situational and I personally wouldn't take them into endgame content unless you want to suffer. Tarrabah is an amazing weapon once you get the Ravenous Beast going, however it is an SMG after all, so your gameplay will look something like this if you truly want to take advantage of the weapon. Tommy's Matchbook is another cool weapon if you want to consistently be at critical health in Grandmasters, which let me tell you, it's not fun. Lastly, we have Devil's Ruin, which at the end of the day, it's still a sidearm, so it's simply not going to perform the best and harder content. Although I have to say it is insanely satisfying to use against bosses. Finally, my personal favorite setup is using any of the solar weapons I mentioned above and combining them with a gold roll Apex Predator for some of the most insane bursts that you will see against champions. In my kinetic, I usually either run a Chill Clip Riptide or simply another weapon to deal with champions. And that is all I have for you guys today. I really hope that you enjoyed this build, and if you have any questions, you can either find me on my stream or Discord server. As always, have a wonderful rest of your day.